For section 2.7, we are going to solve multi-step equations. The math practice that we're going to use is look for and make use of structure. We have used this math practice a lot lately, but that's because we're working a lot with equations, and equations are a math structure, and so we use that structure in order to solve them. So when we do this, we're going to use everything that we have learned up until this section within this unit. That is our foundation that we've been working on, and we're going to put all of that together to solve multi-step equations. So we're going to build on that foundation for solving equations. So that foundation was distributing, combining like terms, two-step equations, the fractions. We might have a couple problems that have fractions in them, so we'll have to know how to do those operations. But when we learned how to distribute and combine like terms, we're now going to incorporate that into solving these equations. After we distribute and combine like terms, you're going to notice that we're going to have a review problem of two-step equations. And then, huge reminder, as I've said almost every single day, this whole unit, be careful with your signs. Be very careful with your positives and negatives. Make sure when you're rewriting your steps that you rewrite the negatives or the positives how they need to be, and that you're following all your rules for that. So when we are solving these multi-step equations, we have all these steps that we're going to go through. So like I said before, equations have a lot of structure to them, and when we have stuff with structure, we can follow some pretty strict steps that will guide us through the process of solving these. And so these steps, our first one, we're always going to distribute on either side of the equation as needed. So sometimes we might have to distribute on the left side, sometimes we might have to distribute on the right side, and every once in a while we might even have to distribute on both sides. So that's going to be the first thing that we do. So if we go over to this example problem here, I have distributing right here. So I'm going to distribute the -3 to both parts of that parenthesis. And so I get -6x minus -12, because -3 times 4 is -12. But that minus the negative becomes a positive. And then I'm just bringing everything else down. All right, moving on to my next step then. Now I'm going to combine like terms on either side of the equation, on each side of the equal sign. So I'm going to combine like terms on the left side. I'm going to combine like terms on the right side. At this point, I am not moving back and forth. I'm not moving numbers to the other side of the equation. I'm just working on one side at a time. So I'm going to look at the left side of this equation first, and I see that I have a -6x and a +5x. So -6 plus a +5 is -1, so I have -x. And now I have a +12 and a -3. 12 minus 3 is 9, so I have +9. And then on the right side of my equation, I just have 18. I don't have anything to combine, so I'm just going to rewrite that. All right. So one thing I want to point out is these first two steps, we're just working on one side of the equal sign at a time. So these first two steps are a little different than the rest of this. The rest of this problem, we're going to be moving stuff back and forth from one side of the equation to the other. But like I've said a couple times now, when we're doing the distributing and when we're combining like terms, we're only on one side of the equal sign at a time. All right, moving on to step number 3. Now we're going to move the variable from the right side to the left side of the equation by doing the opposite operation. So if I have any variables that are on the right side, they need to move to the left. So when I'm going to my example, the right side of my equation doesn't have any variables, so I actually don't need to do anything in this step. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this just for how this particular problem is laid out. But if you had a problem like this, you would just skip this step and move on. My next step, I need to move the constant from the left side to the right side by once again doing the opposite operation. So what is the constant? Well, the constant's the number that's just, any number that's just standing alone. So 9 would be a constant because it's just standing alone. 18 would be a constant because it's just standing alone. If there's a number that's attached to the x, like a number that's being multiplied to it, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about these ones that are just standing alone. So it says I need to move all of my constants to the right side. So I have my 9 that's on the left side. My opposite operation of that plus is minus. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides of the equation. And so I get negative x, because the 9s cancel out, equals 9, because 18 minus 9 is 9. Now I have all my variables on the left side. I have all my constants on the right side. Now my last step of actually solving is to divide and simplify. I need to divide and simplify. So looking at this problem, I have negative x equals 9. But I want to know what positive x is. I don't really care too much about the negative. So I need to get rid of it. So I'm going to divide by a negative 1. When I do that on both sides, what happens to this problem? Well, a negative divided by a negative becomes positive. X divided by 1 is x. And then on the right side, 9 divided by 1 is 9. Positive divided by a negative is negative. So I get x equals negative 9. And now the final step. As always, whenever we're solving equations, I need to check my answer. So I'm going to take my original equation. So I'm looking back up here at my original equation. I'm going to rewrite it, but instead of writing all of my x's, I'm going to substitute in the negative 9. So I'm going to write negative 3 times 2 times negative 9. I'm just using the parenthesis to separate my numbers. Minus 4 plus 5 times negative 9 minus 3 equals 18. And now I know you don't have a whole bunch of space to work this out, but I'm going to go ahead and work this out over here. So when we are checking our answers like this, we are following order of operations. If we have stuff on both sides of the equal sign, then we need to follow order of operations on both sides. So I recommend that you work all the way down to one answer on one side, and then you go to the other side and you work down to that answer, and then you see if they're equal. On this one, we only need to work on the left side, and we just need to see if it equals 18. So order of operations tells me I need to do parentheses first. Well, I have some parentheses that have operations inside of them right here. So I have 2 times negative 9 minus 4 all in the parentheses. I need to do order of operations within my parentheses. So I need to do multiplication and then subtraction. So I have 2 times negative 9, which is negative 18. And I'm copying everything else down. I'm doing this one step at a time. And now inside of that parentheses, I have negative 18 minus 4. And so I'm going to add the opposite. Negative 18 plus a negative 4 is negative 22. And I'm bringing everything else down. Now I'm going to do multiplication. So I have negative 3 times negative 22. That's a positive 66 plus 5 times negative 9, which is negative 45, minus 3. So I just did all my multiplication in that step. And now I'm going to do my addition and subtraction, working left to right. So 66 plus a negative 45. I don't need to change signs because I'm already adding. I have a positive and a negative, which means I'm going to subtract my numbers. So 66 minus 45 is 21. And then I need to take the sign of the larger number. 66 is larger than 45. 66 is positive, so 21 is positive. And then I have minus 3. 21 minus 3 is 18. And that is what I originally had here. 18 is equal to 18. So I did get the correct answer. One thing I want to point out is in step 5, we said we're going to divide and simplify. But sometimes it's not always going to divide out evenly. Sometimes we're going to end up with a fraction. That's okay. But if your solution does not divide evenly, please leave it as a fraction or an improper fraction if that's what you get. Please, 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 please do not change it to a decimal or a mixed number. Just leave it as it is. Let's go ahead and work out a couple more examples. So this one, I'm going to just go through my steps. My first step tells me that I need to distribute. So all I'm going to do on this step is I'm going to take that negative 5 and I'm going to distribute it to both parts of my parenthesis. So I have negative 5 times negative 2x. Well, that's positive 10x, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then negative 5 times positive 5 is negative 25. And then I'm just copying everything else down. My next step tells me that I need to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine all of my x's. So I have negative 4x plus 10x. So negative 4 plus 10 is positive 6. And then I have 6x plus 3x, which is 9. So I end up with 9x. And then I have negative 25 minus 2. So if I think about it, negative 25 minus 2, I need to add the opposite. I get negative 27. And this is equal to 9. Now that I've combined like terms, my next step is to move all of my variables to the left side. Well, that's already happened. All my variables are on the left side. And so now I need to move all my constants, so all my numbers that are standing alone, to the right side. So the only number that I need to move is negative 27. So my opposite operation, I'm going to add 27. So I'm left with 9x, that cancels out, is equal to 36, because 9 plus 27 is 36. Now I just need to divide and simplify. So I'm going to divide by 9. My 9's cancel out, and I'm left with x equals 4. So I'm going to check my work. So I'm going to come over here to the check. I'm going to rewrite this whole problem, but instead of writing the x's, I'm going to write 4. So I have negative 4 times 4 minus 5 times negative 2 times 4 plus 5 plus 3 times 4 minus and I'm going to set that equal to 9. So I need to move this just a little bit. And that's equals 9. So now I'm just doing my order of operations on the left side of this to see if I get 9. Order of operations tells me I need to do parentheses first. So inside of these parentheses, I need to follow my order of operations still. So I do multiplication before I do addition. So I have negative 2 times 4, which is negative 8. And I'm just going to copy everything else down. I'm still inside of my parentheses. I'm going to do my addition now. So I have negative 8 plus 5, which is negative 3. And I'm copying everything else down. After parentheses, I have exponents. Well, there's no exponents here, so I'm going to move on to multiplication and division. So I'm going to work left to right to do the multiplication because there is no division in this problem. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. 3 times 4 is 12. And then I'm bringing down that minus 2. Now I just have addition and subtraction that I'm doing left to right. So I have negative 16 plus 15. That's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 12 is 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. And if I bring that down, I have 9 is equal to 9, which is correct. I got the right answer. All right, let's do another one. Go ahead and pause this video and see if you can do this one on your own. If you get stuck or if you finish and you need to check your work, play the video and check and see if you did it correctly. So my first step on this is to distribute, just like usual. But this time I have two things to distribute. I need to distribute the negative 6, and I need to distribute the 3. So I'm going to do that. I have negative 6x minus 12, or plus a negative 12. I have that minus 5x that I'm just copying down. Plus 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And then I have that x, so negative 12x. Minus 3 times 1, which is 3. Plus 10 equals 41. So I'm going to combine like terms. And so I'm going to look at each of my variables and the signs in front of them. So I have negative 6x minus 5x plus a negative 12x. So negative 6x minus 5x, I'm going to add the opposite. Negative 6 and negative 5 is negative 11. Negative 11x plus negative 12x is negative 23x. So that's going to go right up here. I have negative 23x. And now I'm going to combine my numbers. Negative 12 minus 3 plus 10. Negative 12 minus 3, I'm going to add the opposite. Negative 12 plus negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 15 plus 10 is negative 5. And that's equal to 41. So now I need to move all of my variables to the left side. They're already all over there. So my next step is to move all the constants, or all the numbers that are standing alone, to the right side. I have a negative 5, so I need to add 5 to move it. I'm left with negative 23x on the left. My 5's cancel out, and I get 46 on the right. Now I just need to divide and simplify. I'm going to divide by negative 23. So my negative 23's cancel out, and I'm left with x. 46 divided by negative 23 is going to be negative 2. So now I'm going to check this problem, check my work. So I'm going to rewrite this problem, but I'm going to substitute negative 2 in for any of the x's. So I have negative 6 times negative 2 plus 2 minus 5 times negative 2 plus 3 times negative 4 times negative 2 minus 1. Let me move this. Plus 10 equals 41. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to work on the left side of my equal sign, and I'm going to follow my order of operations. So order of operations tells me I need to work in the parentheses first. So I'm going to look inside the parentheses that have operations in them. So that would be these two right here. I have negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to copy down as I'm working left to right. And then here I have negative 4 times negative 2 minus 1. I need to do the multiplication before I do the subtraction because I'm still following order of operations. So negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8, and I still have minus 1. And so now I'm still working inside of that parenthesis. And so I'm just copying everything else down. 8 minus 1 is 7. And I'm going to continue copying down. After parenthesis, I have exponent, but there's no exponents in here. So I'm going to move on to my next order of operation, which is multiplication. And I'm going to do my multiplication working left to right. So I have negative 6 times 0, which is 0. And then I have 5 times negative 2, which is negative 10. I have 3 times 7, which is 21. And then I have plus 10. So I'm going to do my addition and subtraction working left to right. 0 minus negative 10. Well, the minus negative, I need to add the opposite. So I'm just left with 10. So I get 10 plus 21, which is 31, plus 10 is 41. If I bring this down, I get 41 is equal to 41. So I did get the correct answer. All right, I believe I have one more problem to work through. So I'm going to work through this one with you, and then we will be done with these notes. So I have 2/3 times the quantity 6x minus 12 equals 15. So my steps tell me to distribute first. So even though I see a fraction here, and some of you might get a little scared, don't. All we have to do is distribute the fraction. So you get 2/3 times 6x and 2/3 times negative 12. So over to the side, I'm going to write out 2/3 times 6. I need to put my 6 over 1. And then I'm going to cross simplify. So my 2 and my 1 don't simplify, but my 3 and my 6 do. I can divide a 3 out of both of those. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now when I multiply straight across, 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. So I'm just left with 4. And remember, I have that x on there. So I have 4x Now I'm going to do the same thing with that negative 12. So I have 2/3 times negative 12. I need to put that over 1. Before I multiply across, I'm going to cross simplify. My 2 and my 1 don't simplify, but my 3 and my 12 do. I can divide a 3 out of both of those. So my 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. I have 2 times 4, which is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. And a positive times a negative is a negative. So this is negative 8. So I have 4x minus 8 equals 15. My next step tells me I need to combine like terms on either side of my equal sign. But if I look on the left side, I don't have any like terms to combine. And if I look at the right side, I also don't have any like terms to combine. After that, I need to move all my constants or all my variables to the left. But this is the only variable I have, and it's already on the left. And I need to move all my constants to the right. So I need to add 8 to move it to the right side. So I'm left with 4x, my 8's cancel out, equals 23. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to get x by itself. So I get x equals 23 over 4. I cannot simplify that any further, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and check this and see if it's correct. So I'm going to write my problem out, but instead of writing x, I'm going to write 23/4. And then over here, I'm going to follow order of operations. So I'm inside of the parentheses first. I need to do order of operations inside the parentheses. So I need to do 6 times 23 over 4. So if I go over to the side, I can cross simplify my 6 and my 4. 2 goes into both of those. So my 6 becomes 3, my 4 becomes 2. So I get 23, sorry, I forgot to multiply straight across. So now I need to multiply straight across. So 3 times 23 is 69, and my denominator is 2. So I have 69 halves minus 12. All of that is times 2/3. And I'm eventually going to see if that equals 15. So I need to do 69 halves minus 12. In order to subtract fractions, I need a common denominator. That common denominator is going to be 2. So to get from 1 to 2, I multiply by 2. So to get from 12 to 2, I'm going to multiply by, to get from 12 to my new number, I need to multiply by 2. So 12 times 2 is 24. 69 minus 24 is 45, and my denominator is going to be 2. I'm going to move this over here out of the way. So inside the parentheses, I have 45 halves, and I'm multiplying that by 2/3. So when I'm multiplying this, I'm going to cross simplify. My 2's both become 1's. My 3 becomes 1, and my 45 becomes 15. So when I multiply straight across, I get 15 over 1, which is 15. So those are equal. I did get the right answer, even though I was a little unsure when I got 23 over 4, because that was kind of a weird fraction. That is the right answer. Now that we've worked through some of these problems together, you are good to go on the homework. you can finish that up, and then, of course, come ask me if you have any more questions.